AITAH for refusing to drive a longer route to drop a girl off because she didn't want to be alone in the car with me? I feel like it's relevant to mention I'm a male. This situation involves me and 3 other people. Let's call them Joe, Sandra, and Amy. I'm good friends with Joe, we've been friends since we were kids. I know Sandra through Joe and the 3 of us hang out regularly. Last week, Sandra invited her friend Amy to hang out with us. Amy and Sandra are good friends and she's met Joe before. It was my first time meeting her. We just saw a movie and then went bowling. When everything was done, Sandra asked me if I was okay to drive Amy home. I said yeah, no problem. I'm the only one who drives, so I usually drop everyone off after we see each other. I live in the middle of nowhere, like an hour north of all of them. They all live pretty close together. From where we were and where everyone's house is, it made sense to drop off Joe first, then Sandra, and then Amy. Then continue on home. We didn't discuss the logistics in advance, so I dropped Joe off first, then was heading to Sandra's. I could tell Amy and Sandra were texting each other and they were kind of whispering. I had a feeling they were talking about me, but I didn't know for sure until Sandra just pointed out I made a wrong turn and Amy's house was the other way. I explained it made more sense to drop Sandra off first, then Amy. It was only at this point Amy mentioned she didn't want to be alone in the car with me. Her only reason was because I'm a man, and she alluded that being alone in a car with a man she doesn't really know is unsafe. So what she was asking me was to drop her off next, then drive 10 minutes back, in the opposite direction of my house, to drop Sandra off. Then another 10 minutes, back the exact same way I just came from, passing Amy's house again, in order to get home. My drive home is already an hour from town, so I said no. I didn't want to add an extra 20 minutes to my already 60-minute drive. They were both really pressuring me and trying to guilt me into just doing it, but I kept saying no. It was such an awkward car ride because they just didn't give up. Amy just got out of the car at Sandra's house. She kind of slammed the door all aggressively, which pissed me off a little. I just drove straight home afterwards. Joe called me the next day and heard what happened. He felt like I should have just done it, but I feel like their ask was unreasonable. I'm not going to go way out of my way to do a favor for someone who just thinks I'm some messed up abuser or something. Anyways, just looking for opinions on whether or not I'm the asshole here. First comment. She should have called an Uber if this was going to be a problem for her. NTA. Second comment. So they were okay with Sandra being in the car alone with you but not her? Drop them both at Sandra's house and make your own way home safe from any accusations. Third comment. I met Sandra a bunch of times because her and Joe are close. So I guess she knows me well enough to be fine with that. I've driven her home alone before, as it's a regular thing for me to drop them off after hanging out. Fourth comment. NFO, Amy was okay with Sandra being alone with you in the car? NTA. BTW, what was her original plan of getting home before asking you? Fifth comment. I've already driven Sandra home alone many times before, so she's fine to be alone in a car with me. Not sure what her original plan was. They all took the bus to the place. The bus service sucks where I live and they stop running early, so it's kind of become the expectation I drive Joe and Sandra home after hanging out. I honestly don't mind because their houses aren't out of my way anyways. Just this time, I would have had to backtrack and everything, so I said no. Sixth comment. AITAH. Her getting out at Sandra's was the right thing for her to do if she was uncomfortable. You were giving her a free ride. Totally her choice to not take it, for whatever reason, but you didn't do anything wrong. Seventh comment. As a woman, I would have been pissed if my friend was demanding my other friend take driving directions. Someone they just met. Would have taken all my effort not to loudly say, if that's what you want, bitch, walk, and held the door open for them. Fucking rude ass people. Eighth comment. Honestly, I think the difference might be between people who own cars and people who don't. I think people who don't pay for gas, insurance, a vehicle, and operate it regularly just don't understand how you actually do things like plan route to reduce drive time and fuel use, avoid sketchy, poorly maintained or busy roads, and all the other things that come naturally to people who drive. Ninth comment. This is exactly where I'm at. They treated Op like a chauffeur to be discarded. They were incredibly rude, insulting and demanding / entitled of Op's time and money as well as his feelings. 10th comment. She can take a lift from Sandra's. 11th comment. I think telling Joe okay, moving forward to stop this happening again, I'll meet everyone at the location, and you guys can work out your transport to and from is a solid way forward. 2 people are getting free transport and got upset they couldn't force the third person to accommodate a fourth. 12th comment. Perhaps this concern of Amy's caught Sandra off guard. Had I been Sandra in this situation, I would have asked Op to drop us both off at Amy's. Then I would have caught a ride share home from there. Any future plans with Amy would include a ride plan that doesn't offend my friends but also doesn't force Amy to reveal her issue. Maybe she has been SA'd in the past. For sure I'd be offering Op gas money for all of his driving. If I were Sandra right now, I'd be apologizing to Op for the awkward situation that I helped perpetuate and assuring him it won't happen again. 13th comment. That I agree with both of them, get out of one or the other's home and rideshare home. Having Op backtrack is ridiculous, especially for someone who is not a friend and clearly doesn't want to be alone with Op. And if Amy was that uncomfortable, she could have kept quiet and just gotten out with Sandra. 14th comment. NTA, how Amy handled it was immature. If she really felt that uncomfortable with being alone with you driving, she should have, privately, gotten an Uber from Sandra's house or asked Sandra to drive her. It was an unfair ask. Also, this is coming from a woman who definitely appreciates the safety concern. 15th comment. Honestly, there are so many things Amy could have done to feel safer. I'm assuming she was already in the back seat with Sandra. That distance is a good start. She could have stayed on a phone call with Sandra, or anyone else she trusted, during the 10 minutes between Sandra's place and hers. She could record the ride, use location sharing, etc. I can empathize with her discomfort up to a point, especially if she has trauma in her past, but she had already spent the evening with Op. He's not a complete and total stranger at this point. And instead of secretly talking about it over text with Sandra, rude, she should have planned for her journey home beforehand, and maybe even asked about being dropped off before Sandra at the time of asking for a ride. You can't ask someone for a favor, then suddenly ask them to extend that favor halfway through, and then essentially insult them by insinuating that they are a dangerous person while still expecting them to do you a favor. NTA 16th comment. This is the best answer I've seen. I'm a woman acutely aware of safety. But she should have been able to get a read on the situation and him having spent the night with everyone. If, after all that, she didn't feel safe with him, she should have come up with her own solution to getting home. Or at least ask about the drive home. I am responsible for my safety as much as possible. I would have used my words, like an adult, to express my comfort level. And by the way, I wouldn't guarantee safety in an Uber either. 17th comment. Yeah, I am also a woman and I am aware of my safety, though less so because usually my husband is around in Ubers and stuff, but we can't expect other people to anticipate and accommodate our triggers around safety, or anything else, and that goes for men too. We have to be a bit proactive. And when you ask someone for a favor, you don't get to dictate the terms. 18th comment. NTA, I would have even suggested that she needs to get out at Sandra's as you don't feel comfortable being in the car alone with her. 19th comment. Oh, I totally understand. I'll drop you both off at Sandra's, and you can get an Uber from there. It's hard to think of that in the moment, of course, but if you said that cheerfully enough it would be hard for them to push back. If they did, you could say, oh, wait. You want me to add another 20 minutes to my drive that's already going to be more than another hour, so you can avoid having to take a quick Uber? 20th comment. Yup, this is the way. Keep it light and cheerful, don't burn a bridge if you don't have to. The other option might have been to explicitly verbalize your disappointment in the direction this took, like, ah shoot, that really bums me out. Knowing that you'd think of me this way, I don't think I'm comfortable being alone with you either. You'd better get out at Sandra's and you can figure something else out from there, okay? 21st comment. As a woman, I can understand not wanting to be alone with someone you don't know. But the solution is to just get out at your friend's house and figure out another ride the rest of the way, not demand that the person doing you a favor drive 20 minutes out of their way for your comfort. Both women were acting pretty entitled. 22nd comment. NTA, while her reasoning might be solid, her actions were not. She should have arranged her own transportation in advance. Once she realized the route, she should have just kept her mouth shut and got out at Sandra's and Ubered from there. If she's so worried about you being a messed up abuser, why is it okay to leave Sandra alone with you? Also, let's talk about 2026, and the price of gas. How rude to ask someone to go out there was without offering up some gas money. Again, I understand her reason, but she has to learn how to not put herself in the situation in the first place. You are NTA. They are. 23rd comment. NTA. Are her feelings valid? Absolutely. But if she had expectations of being dropped off not last, she should have said that up front or politely gotten out at one of her friend's places and taken an Uber. You're not obliged to adhere to everyone's ride requests, especially one you didn't know about. 24th comment. NTA, if they had qualms about it, they can call an Uber. It was completely inappropriate for them to spring that on you at the last second, and it absolutely reveals what they think of you. I wouldn't hang out with people casting me as some kind of creep while I'm in the middle of doing them a kindness. If they're so disconnected from getting around that they don't even talk out the order and logistics of drop-off, then they don't get to decide it while you're already out of your way. Again, I'd offer to drop them off anywhere to grab an Uber. Spoilers though, most Uber drivers are dudes. Like, that's what gets me. Any random Uber would be way less safe than some guy my friend has known for years. I don't get their angle. 25th comment. You were already doing everyone a favor by driving, and your route made the most sense. Their request would have added extra time to an already long trip, and it came too late, after you were already on the road. It's completely reasonable to set a boundary and say no to that. Amy's discomfort is understandable in general, but it wasn't about you personally, and it should have been brought up beforehand, not mid-ride. Instead, they put you in an awkward position and then pressured you when you didn't agree, which wasn't fair. At the end of the day, they had other options, like getting an Uber, so this wasn't something you were responsible for fixing, especially at your own expense. If it comes up again, you can just say, I understand her concern, but I wasn't okay adding extra time to my drive, especially since it wasn't discussed beforehand. 27th comment. Woman here, and massive feminist. I'd say NTA. You're already driving them all home when you didn't need to. I'd feel the same way as Amy about being alone in a car with an unknown man, however I would get out at my friend's house and get a Lyft or taxi to mine from there if I was that uncomfortable. It's very entitled to expect you to go out of your way even further when you are already doing them a favor. People are wild. 28th comment. Too scared to sit in a car with you for 10 minutes when people know exactly where she is and who she is with. But not too scared to ask for a favor and a ride? For your own safety, you should not be in the car alone with someone this paranoid and irrational. Lord only knows what she could misinterpret and or accuse you of. 29th comment. Internal dash cam to prove to the police and the other two friends that nothing happened once it was just the two of them. Lyft and Uber drivers use them. I saw a clip a few weeks back with a woman on a call with either corporate or the police saying she felt unsafe, car was stopped, she could have gotten out, the only reason we saw it is because he was filming, though probably from a phone and not internal CCTV. 30th comment. I get it. She was alone in a car with a strange man she didn't know. Fair that she was uncomfortable. But the right answer is actually what happened. Instead of being hateful and rude about a free ride all over town, just get out at your friend's house and get an Uber to get place or call a cab. And say thanks for the ride. What the fuck is wrong with people? 32nd comment. If she felt uncomfy being alone in a car with you, she should have felt equally uncomfy having her address in your radar at all. Some people just don't think ahead and panic over the littlest of things. She should have gotten an Uber or Lyft, or just have you drop her off with the other girls and been grateful for the cheaper ride back to her place later. It's not that big of deal, but they made it into one. Unless you raised your voice or was driving line a maniac, everyone but you sucks in this scenario. Get better friends or be prepared to have a serious convo about rideshare etiquette ASAP. Some people just haven't a FKN clue.